I have been really enjoying the growing popularity of what has been labeled boomer shooters. While I enjoy many modern shooters, there is something really special about the older style of first-person shooters, along with the older visual designs. I have played my fair share of some quality newer titles like this. Ion Fury was a delightful shooter with interesting weapons, interactive environments, and fun shooting action. Dusk is often pointed to as one of the finest in this genre. Last year, a solo dev came out with Herat. This was inspired by classics like Quake, and was really fun with solid gameplay, levels, enemies, along with a fun horde mode. Whenever I jump back into the indie space, I'm always impressed when playing something made by one person. And while not every game made by a solo dev is automatically good, but there are many of them that create these impressive experiences. And today I want to talk about a brand new one that just hit early access. Incision checks a lot of the right boxes and provides a lot of satisfying action. Incision is a first-person shooter that focuses all of its attention on the action. You are dropped into the first level with very little context on the world and story. Other than that, you need to find more guns and ammo and shoot everything you come across. The violence is delightfully over the top and is easily one of the best aspects of the experience. There are some unique elements here, like how you cannot save during the levels, and it uses a traditional live system. All of this gives your actions more weight. So far, Incision is really solid. Incision does a good job of jumping the player right into the action from the very start. You are given a revolver and are tasked with killing everything in your way as you're trying to find the exit. The controls are what you would expect and handle really well. You have the option to double jump, and when you hit your second jump, you sort of have a glide for a bit. This is really useful for some of the exploration and platforming parts, but this is also your main means for defense. That second jump glide can really save you from taking needless damage as you reposition yourself to a better spot. But this also means you need to quickly assess and then reassess your surroundings, so that you do not find yourself jumping or gliding into a wall, wasting your opportunity to get to a better area to take out your opposition. This is an element that is really easy to pick up on and use, but the more skilled players will get really good at timing their jumps and knowing the best time to dodge. The action is fast and relentless at times, and while I found myself struggling knowing when the best time is to dodge, I found myself slowly getting better at this as I kept playing it, and this type of progression was nice to see. Now when it comes to the shooting itself, Incision does a good job of providing quality sound and impact to your shots. The best way to describe the sound is that all of your guns sound very chunky, like there is a lot of weight and power behind them. And thankfully the impact appropriately reflects the power as well. Shooting an enemy will usually result in a lot of blood and body parts flying around. This is over the top and absolutely awesome. One nice effect is how a red mist is left behind when you kill someone. Weapon-wise, you have an expected but good arsenal. Each weapon comes equipped with that satisfying punch behind each of your shots, and that makes each one enjoyable to use. In addition, each of your weapons have a secondary fire. The shotgun will fire off several shells in quick succession, whereas the machine gun can shoot out a grenade. And if you run out of ammo, you have a melee weapon as well. Incision also does not feature a save system. You carry over your equipment from the prior level, but if you die in a level, you will restart at the beginning of that area. There is a live system here where you pick up additional lives, and if you have at least one, you'll be able to stay in the fight. Now this may seem frustrating at first that you cannot quick save whenever you want, but there are some aspects that I like about this system. For one, the levels are generally short, so they never feel overlong to the point where you need a save system for that aspect. But since you cannot save whenever you want, and your continuing is tied to those lives, every action you make has more weight behind it. This means that as you are slaughtering enemies and trying to survive, each victory is much more satisfying. From a visual standpoint, many areas are darkly lit, and you'll need to rely on your flashlight. This adds an appreciated horror-like aspect to the design that heightens the action. Incision is a very forward-moving experience, but there's plenty of secrets to find, and they are pretty well hidden, and going back to those levels adds some replay. When it comes to the flaws, I only have a few so far. I had an issue when trying to configure my controller. I know that you get more precision with a keyboard and mouse, but I personally prefer playing with a controller when the option is available. I could get almost everything to work, except for I couldn't get the game to recognize my right stick for aiming. It would let me calibrate it in the options, but when I tried to move it around, it didn't work. I figured this was probably something that would get worked out as it gets more updates in early access. Now there is one type of enemy that I found to be rather cheap. There are turrets that hang from the ceiling, and they can both deal a considerable amount of damage. They have a better chance at hitting you more than other enemies, and they tend to have more health too. I would lose a lot of health each time I would run into one of these, and in some cases it would set me back a lot. I think they need to be tweaked a bit more, because even on easy they take off a lot of health. Now before we move to the conclusion, I want to mention the soundtrack. It fits the action well and has the appropriate amount of creepy tones to feed into the atmosphere. Here are a few tracks from the game. Overall, Incision seems to be going in the right direction for an early access title. It's also impressive that this was made by one person. The early access plans, according to the Steam page, is that the game will be updated episodically. What I also liked about this is that the developer plans to take feedback from the community to better the game. If the developer follows through with this, it will help to create what I consider to be the good side of early access, where the players and the fans become part of the behind the scenes in the game's development. As it stands right now, Incision is very promising. It's also a very violent shooter and checks many of the right boxes for me. And when it comes to the minute-to-minute action, I found myself wanting to come back to it again and again. So far, it's also what I like to see from indie titles. It's heavily influenced by the past, but instead of just recreating a new experience based on something classic in its design, we get a game that is inspired by the greats and provides something with its own special twist on it. If you can't get enough of those boomer shooters, then I would recommend either checking this out now in early access, or keeping an eye on it as it adds more content over time. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you'd like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.